Welcome to the What's Your Ceiling podcast. We're your hosts, Monte Wyatt and Paul Szynski. Wherever you are in life, there is a higher ceiling. This podcast is how you become aware of it and how to take action to push through it. It's time to discover your ceiling. Before we get into this month's episode, here's a short message from Adding Zero's Executive Development. As CEO, you demand performance and results from your team. If you're committed to developing a cohesive, driven organization that achieves successful outcomes every single month, we need to talk. It's time to see how organizational and executive development from Adding Zeros can help. We focus on strategic planning, executive coaching, team alignment and engagement, organizational culture, and clarity of implementation. Contact Monte Wyatt by booking an appointment at www.addZerosNow.com. That's ADDZEROSNOW.com, AddZerosNow.com. If you're ready, now is the time. I have a few coaching spots available for 2025. Lock in your team today. Now let's begin today's episode. Welcome to the What's Your Ceiling podcast, where we talk about your health, your family, your business. I'm Monte Wyatt.
Paul Szynski.
And we're having a great guest today. If you're a CEO, a business owner, or executive, then this is the show for you. We enjoy talking about challenges and overcoming them, and we call our audience the achiever because you're always striving for that next level. And really want to introduce our guest. His name is blanked out there, Steve Casteel. Sorry about that. And he's been an entrepreneur for 33 years. He started a company 8 years ago called Payteva, their credit card processing. And he now has 33 employees with 8 offices, and just doing great and growing his business. We're going to look forward to talking about his journey through that process and how he's gotten to where he's gotten today. So, Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're going to have a great conversation. Look forward to it. And want to talk about a brief topic. We like to start off with a little topic. And I want to call it Startup to Growth. And so, Steve, as you hear the word startup to growth, what comes to mind for you?
A lot of things. Startup to growth, operational stuff, employees, marketing, everything that, I've started several companies over the years, and, there's things you have to put in place. So, startup to growth to me, I guess, brings me happiness. That means, either new revenue streams or new headaches, but a lot of things come to mind, I guess.
Yep, yeah. Absolutely. Paul, how about you?
Oh, startup to growth is definitely, if you want to test your where your ceiling is going to be, starting up is definitely a tough way to start. Sometimes it's better to buy a company than to start it.
Yeah.
But when you can do startup to growth, you learn a lot. And I think it's, you kind of bare knuckle it and you learn a lot. And I think that someone like you and what we're introductions, I think you're going to tell a little bit of background here, is pretty phenomenal to be able to work in the industry for quite a while, which helped you, I'm sure.
Yep.
And then to go out and decide to start it from scratch. I think it's I always think anybody that starts anything from scratch has got to be pretty tough.
Absolutely. So, what comes to mind to me is it goes from an idea about yourself to a vision for others.
Sure.
Because you got to bring that vision to others. You got to bring them along with you. You got to attract them. And that growth is a powerful thing to get going, and it creates momentum. And you got to have that vision to get that momentum. So I think that's a powerful thing, is you got to have vision in a bigger way to get that growth to happen.
Really good way of putting it, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Steve, again, welcome to the show, and would love to have you tell a little of your story of how you started Payteva and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. So started in the industry, the payments industry, just a little over 13 years ago. Started with a company called Heartland Payment Systems. At the time, they were 5th largest in the country. Started out as a basic sales rep, moved up quickly to a territory manager. After 2 years, was promoted to a division manager. And shortly after I was promoted to a division manager, we got bought out by a company called Global Payments. And first year, everything was fine. And then a year later, the culture started shifting. They started changing the commission structure, the products we could sell, the way we could sell our products and stuff like that. So about 2 years after Global bought us out, I kind of saw my exit. Didn't necessarily want to leave. I thought I'd always be at Heartland for life, but decided that I was better off on my own, and had no intentions on starting a business per se. I just knew that I could do better on my own than working for the company. So decided.
If I could just jump in for
Sure.
a second, you talked about the culture changed. What changed in that culture that made you realize it wasn't for you any longer?
Yeah, so in the state of Iowa, we had one manager, that was me, right? And they added another manager that came from outside of the company. So they were known to promote from within. They hired somebody that had not worked within the company. And so didn't know what it was like to, go through the trenches per se, right? And they started hiring their own sales team. And their sales team were, battling against our sales team. And, it was one of those he said, she said, they told us we could do this, they told us we could do that. And just a lot of infighting. It wasn't fun anymore. We used to be able to go to a merchant, be able to talk about processing and payroll. Then we could only talk about processing. We couldn't talk about payroll. We'd have to bring somebody else in. So that the culture went from, this is a great company to they're trying to take away our money, trying to take away products we can sell. And the morale just went down really quick. So
Yeah, leadership's big. Leadership that steers that boat. It's important to keep, especially your A players. A players don't want to deal with B and C players. Now, with your company, Payteva, number one, how did you come up with the name? And number two, that's a point of sale systems, ACH, credit card, the payroll. Kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. Payteva, what's funny is we actually started out as Vital Pay. So the name of the company was Vital Pay for a year, and we received a cease and desist from a company in New York called Vita Pay. Super long story short, talked to an attorney. He said, "Hey, Steve, you could spend millions fighting this. If you don't like the name, just change it." So wrote back to the Vita Pay and said, "Hey, give me 90 days. We'll change the name." So when I was looking for a new name, I wanted 7 letters or shorter. I wanted Pay to be in the name. Came up with a bunch of different names. I wanted the domain name too, and that was the hardest part, was finding a name where the domain name was available. So Teva Pay was originally what I wanted, but then I switched around. Payteva. Payteva.com was available. And so Pay, of course, is payments. Teva or Teva is Greek for nature. So our original tagline was "Payments are in our nature." So that's how we came up with Payteva. So
Cool.
yeah. So after that, I went and trademarked the name, and then trademarked our logo. So now I can go after people who have a name that's similar. But so that's how I came up with the name.
You use a trademark lawyer here in town?
Yeah. In fact, I did.
I'll have to talk to you about that after this. Remind me. So you have all these different systems that you have, and you went out and competed and started your business. Finding talent's tough. So how did you go about finding talent?
Yep. So the company I left had a pretty strict non-compete and a non-solicit. I couldn't go after my old employees, right? So did not go after them, but slowly, surely, they called me and said, "Hey, what are you doing? It seems like you're having fun again." And so I told them, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Not recruiting you in any way, shape, or form." And I think most of them I mean, for the first couple employees, they all came from the previous employer, right? They had their own struggles with where they're at. Some of them were let go because they weren't meeting the numbers anymore. But so first couple employees, there were two from the beginning that we hired outside. I hired a guy, one of our employees from a previous job. He worked a baggage handler at an airport, and this guy Greg, he lived in Atlanta, but he worked out of Des Moines with Allegiant because he could fly for free here. So we started talking. He had a lot of friends in the industry, so anybody who was willing to learn at the time, we were taking on. So, but for the first couple of years, we had slow, intentional growth. We didn't want to get the cart in front of the horse. We were kind of like the Wild Wild West. We didn't have any systems in place. Yeah. And today we still don't have a lot of systems in place. It's one of the things that we're working on ourselves. But from the get-go, slow, intentional growth. One of the other things when I started the company is we started selling the point of sale system. So there's the processing aspect where we just process payments, but when I started up Payteva, I wanted another component. I wanted that hardware piece so that we could go in and talk about other stuff than just processing. On the point of sale, we can work with other processing companies. So we'd actually market ourselves to other processing companies, say, hey, we'll provide the POS, you can provide the processing. That worked out great for a long time. And then at some point, we just said, hey, we're going to do everything. So,
yeah. Oh, cool. Now, when you said you were bringing on people, obviously when you start out, you're right, you don't have all your processes and SOPs in order. But as you grow, as you well know, break points at $3 million, then you got another break point, $8, $10 million, then $25 million. Each process without having the right SOPs in place is tough to break through some of those income. But one thing that you obviously have a pretty good awareness of what type of person, the right DNA to hire, because you've grown over 30 people now.
Yeah.
So kind of tell me, if you were to meet somebody and were to interview them, give me some pointers that you would look for.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. You would think in a sales organization, sales experience is one of the things we're looking for. It's actually not the main thing we're looking for, right? One of our best sales reps was a recent college graduate, never sold anything in his life. So we're looking for a great attitude, positive attitude. We want them to be coachable, and we want them to be willing to learn new things, right? We've hired some of the best salespeople, and we've watched them crash and burn because they said, you're not going to tell me how to sell, right? Mm-hmm. Our industry is totally different. So we're looking for anybody who's willing to learn and who has the drive, who's not going to give up. Because the first 3 months, you're not going to make anything in this industry. Yeah. You're building your relationships. You don't have your pitch down yet, right? So we're looking for the people who don't want to give up, willing to learn, and have a positive attitude. So
I love those characteristics, and it's sometimes it's hard to find those characteristics.
Yeah.
And I want to reinforce to our audience, the achiever, you got to have the right characteristics that you want, and you got to attract what you're looking for. Because I think that's a powerful thing, is the right person in the right seat is going to make the biggest difference at all.
Yeah.
And you've got different support staff, you've got salespeople, you got to have different characteristics. You got to make sure that you've got the right person in the right seat. So I'm glad
100%.
Glad that you got those characteristics clearly defined.
Yeah. One of the things, so you were talking about, the break points. So it took us 5 years to break $1 million. Mm-hmm. Took us 10 additional months to break $2 million. We haven't broke 3 million yet. And in the last year and a half, we've had some struggles, right? We've hit that stall point. Okay. So one of the things that we've done is we've identified 2 of our salespeople who, that we've promoted as leaders, right? We call them sales directors, and then we've assigned teams underneath them. One of the other things we're working on is our process. When we get a quote, we used to have a spreadsheet that everybody used, didn't tie into a database. people would change it, modify it. So we had different statement analysis going out that didn't even look like the original one we set up, right? So we started using a professional CRM software. We tried numerous different ones, and finally we just said, hey, we're gonna buck up and use a real one. We use HubSpot now. With HubSpot, we have different integrations into some of the other software pieces we use. The other thing, last year we had our first lawsuit, so that threw a wrench in the gears there. Not only it was an interesting time, right? So emotionally, physically, it was a very stressful time. We didn't know what was going to happen. One of the processing partners we worked with, they did some things that we didn't think were right, so we stopped selling for them. They said, we're going to stop paying you. And then they sued us. Yeah, they said, well, you said you were going to do this and you didn't. So long story short, 6 months, 6 long months, we settled with them, right? And then from there on out, we're analyzing every contract we sign now, right? But so you can always, what does Mike Tyson say? You can always prepare till you get punched in the face, right? That was one of those moments where everything was going great, and then we got punched in the face.
Yeah, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah. So But one of the things we're constantly working on is improving our process. I'm a big fan of Marcus Lemonis. He's got a show called The Profit. He says business comes down to 3 things: people, process, and product, right? We've got the right people in place. We've got an amazing product. It's our process that we need to continually work on. We're continuing working on it today. I mean, it's one of those things. Our inventory is a complete mess right now. We have people just go back and take stuff, right? And just 2 days ago, I said, okay, from now on, nobody takes anything. You have to tell me so that I can assign it, get the serial number, assign it to the merchant, assign it to the sales rep. But yeah, we're always working on processes. So.
Yeah. Now, have you, you're obviously in a growth period where, do you work with any type of coaching, or do you work with any type of thing? Because you're at that point where you really need. Yeah.
Over the years, I think a lot of entrepreneurs will probably have the same mindset, right? They think, hey, I know everything. I don't need a coach, right? I went through the Goldman Sachs 10K business program 2 years ago. And through that, they're like, Steve, you need to have a coach, right? And it wasn't until then that finally made me realize, hey, I don't know everything, right? Mm-hmm. Here's somebody who can help me out, who can ask me the tough questions, who can challenge me on why I'm doing things the way I'm doing. For the last year and a half, I've had a business coach. It's helped out tremendously. So
yeah, you find that you got most entrepreneurs, a lot of them go out there and they don't want to have a boss, so they start their own business. They don't have a clue what they're doing. And then you got other guys that do have a passion and a vision of what they wanted to build. So you got kind of 2 different animals here when you start out a business. But either way, in both ways, you're going to run into break points in place. And without a coach, sometimes guys will take years and years before they get to another break point. Yeah. And I think Monte works in with it all the time, because he's worked with people that go to $1 million, and he's got people that go to $1 billion.
Sure.
And it's really important. You might want to elaborate a little bit of what you've seen in an acceleration of using a coach, because I've seen that with you, and you've done it several times, and you got a fabulous business, and you're obviously a great leader, but you probably see this all the time, Monte.
It's interesting. You get going to that next level, you got to think differently, and your mindset has to change, and your attitude has to change about different things. And if you don't have that abundance mindset, you can only go so far. Yeah. And the leader is the ceiling of the business. Yeah. And you've got to make sure that you are thinking the right way. You've got the big vision. You've got the attitude and the way to communicate that to your team. Yeah. And so I'd love to hear from you, how has your mindset changed over the last few years, and what limiting beliefs have you had that you had to break through?
Yeah.
And you did make the comment. You made a comment that I like because you're in that open mindset of learning and coachable. Is you said, I keep learning and didn't know this. It's what you don't know is what you will end up killing.
What gets you in trouble.
That's what gets you in trouble.
Yeah.
Just like now I'm going to make sure I read my contract. Now I've got to do this. But by sometimes getting input from the outside, you can accelerate that, what you don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Which is...
Yeah, so over the last couple of years, limiting beliefs every day. I'm not good enough, right? I've never ran a business that made $1 million, never made $2 million, right? And once you get there, you're like, oh, that's it, But once you start growing, like my duties that I do today, the stuff that I do every day is different than what I was doing 2 years ago, right? I was still selling myself 2 years ago. And then finally I said, hey, this company's not going to grow with me still selling, right? The thing I would tell my employees is like, you don't see Elon Musk putting tires on the assembly line, right? I can't be out in the field and still lead you guys. So that was one of the biggest shifts for me personally. Is one of the things that the coach was telling me, like, Steve, you can't work in the business, right? You have to lead the team. So a huge shift for me. It was one of those too where I had to put a lot of trust in my team, and for a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners, it's giving up that stuff that you think that you can only do the best, right? So at the same time, that's when we promoted Eric and Weston to sales directors. I just said, hey, if I get any leads, these are all yours, right? I'll turn these over to you guys. I'm not going to sell anything. I even gave them a promise. If I sell anything, I'll give you guys each $5,000. And they're like, oh, this is going to be great, right? But limiting beliefs every day, right? Waking up this morning, our installer is on vacation, so I had to help one of my sales reps install a deal, right? And just waking up this morning, like I could sleep in, and some days are a grind, but I keep telling myself, hey, there's a bigger picture, right? But growing up, I overcame a lot of adversity. I was the shortest kid in my class. Shortest kid always gets picked on. I had a speech impediment growing up. I had to go through speech therapy. So I'm not a stranger to adversity, but like when you start a business and you're like, hey, that's one of the things my coach helped me with, right? Was once your team starts getting bigger, you start having more issues, right? We started having employees with personal issues, right? And they would come to me and tell me their personal issues. I'm like, listen, I'm not built for this, right? So my coach helped me with ways to deal with that, right? I don't know if I answered the question completely, but
I think that's I thought it was a great answer. The fact that, adversity, you grow up all the time, and you obviously like challenges.
Yeah.
And that's because you're a very successful top salesman at Heartland, and then you go on and started your own business. I think then you had some adversity in your growing up. But you're right. We all have that mindset. Are we worthy of what our success has given us? I think you got to accept success before you to really get it.
That was sorry to cut you off, but that was one of the things that my coach helped me with the most. She's like, Steve, you have a hard time accepting success because I want you to write down 40 things that you've accomplished, and we're going to talk about them, right? And I'm like, listen, that's not me. She's like, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? You have to accept that you've been successful. And I'm like, listen, I just want my team to do well, right? It's not about me. And we still had to work through it. So, yeah.
So it sounds like you're the vision, you're the backbone of your company, and it sounds like you got a lot of great things coming up. Now, where are you based out of, and where's your office?
We're based in Urbandale, Iowa, right off of Meredith and Urbandale Drive. Yeah. Yep.
One thing I wanted to talk about, you mentioned when we were talking before about your sales process.
Yeah.
And you're different. You're different in the marketplace. Credit card processing is a different sale.
Yeah.
And I want to reinforce and have you share that story with our audience, because I think it's very important to make sure that every business has a clear sales process.
Sure.
In the languaging. So tell us about your process of sales and what makes it different and unique to the marketplace, because it is different.
Yeah.
And you've got to train your team on that. And
Yeah.
tell us a little more about that.
Sure. So our industry, our sales reps are like one step above the car warranty people on the phones, right? Hey, I've been trying to reach you about your car warranty, right? So merchants get called on by credit card processors easily 5, 6, 10 times a day. So we take a different approach. We tell our sales reps, we have a blueprint, right? It's the blueprint to make 10K a month in less than a year, right? And we talk about things like, overcoming objections, right? That's the biggest thing. But the big thing that we push is to sell the appointment. More than anything, we want them to sell the appointment. Well, Steve, I just started here. I don't know anything about your pricing. I don't know anything about the products we sell, right? We say, just sell the appointment, okay? Sell yourself. That's all we're asking for, right? Well, what if a customer says, well, what's your price? That's a great question. The fact that you're asking me tells me it's important to you. So when we get together next week, we can talk about that, right? What if they ask about the point of sale systems we sell? Hey, that's a great question, right? I know I interrupted your day. When I come and speak with you next week, we can talk all about that, right? We try and remove all the objections when we get the merchant on the phone. Hey, I'm Steve with payment processing, or with Payteva, we do credit card processing, right? Previous companies told us don't talk about that, right? Because it has a negative connotation. Somebody's going to hang up with you. Well, I'd rather be upfront and honest, right? I'm going to remove that objection. We'll say, I know you're not the first one. I know I'm not the first one to call you today, right? But I'd be crazy to think I couldn't help you, right? That's why I'm calling. And then we ask for the appointment. Hey, I want to stop by 15 minutes. If you don't see any value in that conversation, then we'll never bother you again. But here's what you'll learn in those 15 minutes, right? You'll learn how the industry prices businesses like yours. You'll learn the ways that you're overpaying too much. And if you don't work with us, then you'll have enough knowledge to go back to your current provider and know whether or not you're getting a good deal. Mm-hmm. I'd love to stop by. Does that sound fair? And we like to end with, does that sound fair, right? Because it's hard to say no to that. But we don't, at the same time, we don't want to be pushy, right? And then once we get there, we tell our employees, hey, listen, facts tell, stories sell, right? If I tell you the pricing, that's a fact about our business, right? But if I say, hey, where do you buy your ketchup from if you're a restaurant, And they say, well, we buy it from a distributor, right? Well, you doing your processing with a bank that you work with is just like you buying your ketchup from Hy-Vee, right? Wouldn't you rather buy it from a distributor where you get better pricing, better service, right? So we try and bring that emotion in. Credit card processing, for some people, for a lot of merchants, they want to bring it down to a transactional level where we want to bring in those emotions, right? The support issue is big for us. A lot of the national competitors that we compete against don't even have a support number. It's all email support.
Something that you brought in, Steve, is having owned a restaurant and been in that space. You're absolutely right. When you have your POS system that goes down and you got 100 people in your restaurant and you're serving, and be able to get a live person to walk that employee through getting that system back up is really important. Yeah. Because you get a lot of people, you get a answer machine or you got to get on a computer. Next thing you know, you're putting a sign up saying cash only. Yeah. And people coming in turn around. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And there's not a lot of businesses left that actually can get a live person to walk you through that anymore.
Yeah, there's not a lot. Yeah.
So when you set that up, you talk about who's the person that answered the phone. It's the person that sold the system, or it's a person in-house. Tell me about that.
Yep. Yes, we expect all of our sales reps to provide what we call tier 1 support, right? Hey, my printer's not working. Okay, power it down, power it back up. That fixes 90% of the problems, right? Let's make sure you have the paper loaded in it right. Okay, is it backwards? Did you put the right paper in, right? If we get through all those, okay, and it's still not working, then we need another layer of support, right? So we have our own tech support team in our office. And then all of the vendors that we work with have 24/7 support, right? So, but we tell all of our customers, call your sales rep first, right? We want them to call the support. We don't want you to have to be on the phone trying to run your business, trying to figure out how to get your system to work, right? So here locally in Iowa, we've got it set up so that if, let's say, a merchant calls me and I'm unavailable, we have other reps in line ready and willing to help out. So for the out-of-state reps that we have a in-house support team that our merchants can call in case they go down. But we tell all our merchants, hey, we'd rather be the one on the phone, right? Because you brought up a good point, right? You're trying to run your own business. You don't know how to fix this thing, and you're talking to somebody that's probably not even U.S. based, right? Trying to figure out your business, and you've got that sign on your door that says cash only. People are turning around after they read the sign, losing business. So, we really key in on that local support or the support that we provide.
That's wonderful. I love to hear about what people are going through right now. So what's a ceiling that you're looking at breaking through now, or a challenge that you have in front of you that you're really thinking about, you're focusing the team to overcome?
Sure.
So what kind of situation do you have now that you're working through?
Our biggest one is operations. We don't have an operations manager. We don't have any kind of person that says this is how things should be done or make sure that they're done that way. So one of the things that we're working on is setting up those standard operating procedures, right? I talked earlier about our inventory. That's our biggest challenge right now is, we'll pay to have something overnighted and then it'll sit in our warehouse for 3 days, right? Mm-hmm. Or we'll send a tech out to deliver a $10 box of paper when we can pay $7 to ship it, right? So it's those procedures that we don't have in place, and especially, in the last year, we've hired on 10 reps outside of Iowa. So, we don't even have our procedures in place for Iowa, let alone the people outside the state. So that's our biggest pain right now. We're looking to hire an operations person. That and marketing. We don't. We try to do it ourselves. And you get on a good streak, you do 3 or 4 posts a day, or 3 or 4 days in a row, and then nothing for 3 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. So operations and marketing, those are our 2 biggest pieces that we're working on right now. So. Yeah. So
what do you have to do differently as the leader of the business to make sure that those things happen and that you get them in place? Because it's efficiency, it's causing you ways that are not keeping up with the customer. Yeah. What do you have to do differently?
Well, what we've decided for Payteva is we need to hire somebody for those positions to hold us accountable, right? Nobody's holding us accountable right now. So if one of my reps wants to go to the warehouse and grab something, they totally can, right? So we need somebody in a position that holds us all accountable. So we're actively looking for those 2 positions right now.
Awesome. Love to hear that. As you look at the future, what are some things that you need to think about in not just hiring the right people, but expanding to expand over that 3 million to get to that next benchmark? What are the things over the next few years that you've got to grow in to get there?
From an operational standpoint, we can only take our CRM tool so far, right? It's not built for our industry. So we're looking to hire a developer to tailor it to our industry, for one. That's the biggest thing. We talked earlier about core values. One of the things that we need to establish are core values for the company, right? The emission statement is something we're working on too. Some of the things that you should have set up for a company that sometimes you think, oh, we don't need that, but you really do. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that we're working on: the core values, the mission statement. So everybody knows, right? Whether you're a tech guy, whether you're in the shipping department, if you're on the sales team, what we all stand for, right? It doesn't seem that important, but it really is. I just read the book, over a year ago, Start With Why, right? It's an amazing book. It tells you, it reminds you why you're in business, what you're in business for. Some people say, I'm in business to make money. Well, that's not good enough, right? What's the reason behind that? Those are some of the things that are holding us back that we're working on. So
awesome. I love your openness and sharing with us. And I'd love to hear, what do you do to balance your health, your family, and your business?
Yeah.
Because as our achievers out there, we're always working towards that next level, but that it's keeping that personal balance to your life and your health and your family.
Yeah.
How do you balance all that?
For the longest time, I thought, if I just work more hours, then I'll be more successful, right? And that's not true. So it's probably 4 or 5 years ago. I told myself at 5 o'clock I'm shutting things off, and from 5 to 9 is family time, right? I told my reps I'd rather lose 500 customers if that meant I get to spend one more minute with my kids, right? So from 5 to 9 is family time. If we have an issue, emergency, whatever, I'll still work, right? But from 6 to 5, that's work time. 5 to 9. After 9 o'clock, I'll break out the laptop. My health, I've been working on that. I bought a Whoop. I don't know if you've heard of those, but a Whoop tells you, how much sleep you get or how much sleep you're not getting. I get very little sleep. I feel fine, right? But the more I read about it, the more I look into it, the more I realize I need more sleep. So I bought a Whoop that tracks all my sleeping. I have to intentionally say, hey, now it's family time, right? I have a text reply that's set up that if somebody texts me between 5 and 9, I just hit it. It says between 5 and 9 is family time. If this is emergency, text me. Otherwise, I'll contact you after 9 o'clock or tomorrow, right? So, but I have to be intentional about it. So
I love that. You got to be intentional. It's one of my favorite words, is being intentional.
Yeah.
And especially with that family time. And so I love that you're disciplined to do that. And that takes a discipline.
It does.
Especially when you want to grow faster and you got more people that coming on board.
Yeah.
So I love to hear that you're doing that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny sometimes. I'll have my watch on, right, which is connected to my phone, but I coach my son's baseball team, right, and I'll be on third base and my phone's ringing. I'm trying to look at the phone, and so sometimes I'll just take it off, throw it in the bag in the dugout so it doesn't distract me. But it's hard sometimes with technology. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I like to always ask is, what do you want to be known for? So as you think about the future or what you're building, what do you want to be known for?
Sure, that's a great question. A couple of years ago, I would have said, I want to be known for, how much money I made or how rich I was or the stuff I accumulated, right? But a friend of mine died a year ago, had a heart attack. 3 kids overnight died, right? I went to his funeral, and they were talking about his legacy, and a lot of his friends, family members came up and spoke, and it really struck me, right? Like, if I died today, what would people say about me? And it really changed my mind about a lot of things, right? Today I want to be known as a great husband, a great father. I want to be known for being fair, right? I want to be known for being forgiving. I don't want to be a mean boss, right? I want to be that guy who's known for giving his time to help out, right? Giving his shirt off his back. That's what I want to be known for. The business accolades, they're not important to me as I thought they were or have been. Yeah, the physical items, the stuff you accumulate, right? It's all junk. We just moved 3 months ago, and as we're moving, we found a box that was still in a box from the time we moved 9 years ago. And I opened the box, and I'm like, man, all this stuff was so important to me. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I haven't seen it in 9 years, right? So yeah, spending time with my family, being a great father to my kids is more important to me than how much money I make. So yeah.
Love that answer. And I think that's, for our achiever out there, you got to have the right mindset of what do you want to leave as your legacy.
Yeah.
And it isn't always about work. It isn't always about making more money. It is about what are people going to remember about you and how you treated them. And I loved how you said forgiving and fair and making sure that people respected that. Yeah. And so I think that's fantastic. So, Paul, any other questions that you have?
Well, great job, Steve. I appreciate it. You're obviously a talented guy, and growing a company isn't always easy. And, attitude, coachable, and, those are important qualities of getting people to join the group. But, enjoy.
A couple things that I want to reinforce to our achievers that you shared today. You can't work in the business; you've got to lead the business. Yeah. And I think that was a big revelation that you had.
100%.
That you've got to get out of the day to day. You can't sell anymore. Yeah. So I think that's a big takeaway. And I love that you've identified what's the next step. You need core values. You need to make sure that mission is clear. You need systems. You need operation processes. Yeah. And so you've identified that next level. And so you're going to break through that next ceiling real fast when you get those things into place. And I love to hear that that's what your focus is. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for your stories.
Thank you guys.
You
appreciate it.
Well, thank you for joining us, the Achievers, and I really appreciate you watching our show. Keep hitting the like button and subscribe, and we'll look forward to talking with you on the next show. Thank you.